Hey, quickly before we get started, if you could just like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, here's the video. This is ranking every agent in Valorant. Specifically on how strong they are, at least initially. Not saying if you spend, let's say, 1,000 matches with them, or it's your main. It's just hypothetically you've never played as the agent, and you've played a similar class, but you just need to pick that one up because they're telling you to. Let's say that was the scenario. How good would they be? Let's say in that first couple games when you just warm up to an agent. Breach is B or A. He's really, really strong, especially with Raze. I've always seen that combo is extremely dangerous, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about how strong they are now. It's a decent agent. It's not super crazy, but it's pretty strong. I honestly feel like you can't really go wrong with it. Its abilities are pretty useful, and you can always use them. I feel like some heroes or agents, you want to call them, have a tough time using all their abilities. But with Breach, I've never seen I have that problem. Now, the controllers are going to be harder to use. But that's just how it is. You can't really be really good with the controller when you just pick them up. So Brimstone, it's going to be harder to use. His Molly, you might need to search up lineup, so you're not really going to learn that. The same with Viper kind of deal. There's just there's a learning curve to it. When you first pick it up, you're not going to be playing it very well because it's a controller, but you won't do too bad. And the same thing with Cypher. I feel like you can use his util really, really well and just basically not allow any flanks or anything. But when you first pick him up, I feel like there's the mistake of choosing him in the wrong order or not playing his tripwires well enough. Jett is A tier. You could use her abilities bad or even just forget to use her abilities or smokes or whatever, and she would still be really strong. I truly feel like she's a pretty strong agent to any new player, and she's strong once you get good with her. Omen is really bad in my opinion. Out of all controllers, he's kind of the worst. That's my opinion, but he's just not as good. His teleport takes a while for you to use it well, because other times you could just use it and immediately be in front of someone and just die. So it's kind of tough. Phoenix is B. You don't really understand the small things with his wall because you can curve it, which a lot of people don't even know. But he's decent. I feel like when you first pick him up, you won't do terrible. You won't top frag or bottom frag. You'll get a couple picks. You'll be a duelist. So it'll be good. The same, actually, Raze is kind of weird. Raze is really good. Once you get, I just want to say this again. This is not how good they are. Once you get really good with them, this is just how good once you pick them up. If you spent an hour with them. But Raze wouldn't be as good because her ult, yes, you could get a couple kills with it. It's not too tough to use. Same with Phoenix ult. It's pretty handy, and I feel like everyone can use it. But her satchels, if you don't know how to satchel peek with her, they're not very too useful because, you can double satchel, but that's also something that you don't really pick up immediately. And most people just be throwing them away in the wrong way. Her grenade and her, bot would just be wasted. Her grenade would be the only ability that I feel like you could get some use out of, while her little robot, no one would know lineups, no one would know, the kind of line it would take or where it would go, which takes time. Sage is kind of a class that you can kind of pick up immediately, understand generally pretty well. Use the revive. Some people really struggle with using the revive in the wall, just wall then revive. Don't just revive in the open all the time, but it's pretty solid. I've always seen that you can do pretty good with it. It's not super crazy to use. You can use your heal on yourself and stuff. It's not a super complex hero, so you can really get some good value out of it. Sova is really good. Even if, I remember I tried playing as Sova, when I first started playing, I think this was one of my first agents that I, chose. Never watched videos, never really understood what was so good about him. but I was able to use a lot of his utility, not like in the, you know, bounce off certain walls and know where it's going to land, but just I was able to use his abilities whenever I needed, and it felt like I always, like, he had the right amount of util, and his ult is really fun to use. Even if you're new, you'll pick it up pretty quick, so you won't have to worry too much. That I feel like, you know, you can pick him up and you'll actually be able to do pretty good with him. Viper is kind of a tough one to use because I've seen it's just like with other controllers. Her wall needs to be in the perfect position. If you're off by a little bit, then they can see a certain corner. It's just not as good. It's a tough agent to pick up. But her snake bites and her other abilities are also kind of tough to use. Her ult is like pretty easy to use and it's not too tough to know when to use it. But picking her up is kind of tough, honestly. Rayna, I feel like, is super easy for new players. All you do is flash. Obviously, don't flash at head level because if you like swing with your flash out, you could die. They could just chain you. And don't flash where you're gonna walk out of, where you're literally just gonna get head dinked. But she's really easy. You can just obviously get some pretty crazy clips going on where you get some intel if you use her like kind of immunity one. But she's not like super tough to use. He has super simple abilities and super easy to pick up. That like it's honestly a really good duelist. Killjoy is really tough to use because I've seen a lot of people, they'll just throw her all her abilities at one site on defense and not know what to do, and then on offense she'll just like be chucking everything and put them in random spots and have no use out of them. That I feel like you're not really able to use the hero unless you've watched videos well for a while. You got to kind of know when to use your utility. That just comes with time. Skye is a pretty easy hero to pick up. Obviously her heal, you know, just when someone's hurt. Her dog, just to get some intel, just stay behind a corner, and her flashes. It's like, you know, you can bait with the flashes or you can't. I don't think most people know about her bait where you don't actually have to press it, but it's just a simple one. And then her ult is like not very too situational. You can just, if it's a 4v4 and you guys are like, oh, I don't know where they are, just use her ult. Pretty simple, pretty good. Yoru, it's not bad. Like, his ult and his flashes are pretty simple, but the problem is his footsteps. I feel like a lot of people don't even use them, which is the problem. And his teleport is a little weird. Some people like just forget to use them or can't really use the teleport properly, which is not a big deal, but it's like, you know, it's pretty tough. Astra is just like in any other controller. It's hard to be well with it because you're not going to be entry fragging. You're going to be working with the team, so it's a really hard class to use initially. But if you get it down, like once you understand how the gimmicks work after your first game or so, it's much better. But that initial like curve is quite tough to deal with. KO, this is just like not even my opinion at this point. I've never found a good KO player under Platinum. Like, looking at games, looking at a bunch of stuff, they all suck until they get to like Platinum or Diamond. While there could be like really good players on every hero, KO I've only found really, they're always bottom fragging, they're always struggling. It's really weird to look at. Chamber, he's like a B tier. They're not, like, when you initially pick it up, you're not going to get super good with his teleport, but he's pretty nice. He's pretty nice. I do really like him. And he basically just has 2 weapons, so it's not super hard to use. And Neon, I haven't really seen her a lot, so this could change, but from what I've seen, from what I've played, and from what I've heard, she's not super hard to use. She's just a duelist, which is pretty easy to pick up. So I would honestly say she's a pretty easy class to play. She has a Phoenix wall, but isn't as complex because you can't curve it. She has these like grenades that bounce twice. You could just throw it right on them and that would work. Her sprint ability can be recharged, so a lot of people can use that pretty well. And her ult isn't very complex. It's just another weapon. But yeah, this is my ranking on every agent on how good it would be if you initially picked it up. for the first game or two. So yeah, this would be different if you did add, let's say, hours and hours upon it, because definitely all these heroes are good. KO is really good. Killjoy is really strong on defense. Like, Killjoy is easy in S tier on defense that you just don't really get when you first play it. Obviously, all these controllers are not bad agents. And these duelists, some of them don't change, but Raze would definitely not be C tier. And Viper is one of the strongest agents, in my opinion, because of how strong she is. Necessary she is on some maps. And she can literally save some bomb diffuses and save rounds with her ult. And her, like, mollies. If you have lineups, literally any of these characters, if you have lineups, they go up a tier. So, yeah, this isn't just, like, how good they are, because it would definitely not be shaped like this. This is just how good they would be in the hands of a new user in the first, like, hour of playing with them, with no prior knowledge or much knowledge.